After you've cleaned up your model parts, you'll want to glue them together. If they're plastic, you can use plastic cement. If they're resin or metal, you can use superglue. I actually use superglue for everything, but shh, don't tell anyone. Plastic glue actually melts the plastic slightly in order to make it gel to other parts, and I find this a bit risky for spillages, and I'm not a huge fan of the smell either, but it does create a very strong bond. I like to dry fit my pieces first to make sure I understand how they fit, and then I'll apply superglue with a cocktail stick and press them together. I keep an old blister pack handy which I put the superglue into, and the cocktail stick helps me stay in full control of how much glue that I'm adding. As you build, you'll come across parts which become more difficult to paint if you stick them down. This is where you might want to consider sub-assemblies. This just means building separate parts of the model but keeping them unassembled in order to paint them before gluing them together. You'll also come across parts in a model where a gap occurs. Things like cloaks and skin often end up with gaps or deep crevices which wouldn't normally occur. These parts will require gap filling. Gap filling can be done in many ways. Some people like to use green stuff, a two-part hardening putty which can be pushed into place. Citadel also make a more viscous, pre-mixed version of this called liquid green stuff, which you may find easier in the first instance. There is also Milliput, a similar two-part putty which requires you to mix equal parts for a while to activate the putty, then you have a period of time to sculpt and fill with them before they harden, which usually happens overnight. Personally, I use a similar two-part hardening putty called epoxy. Like the others, it can be softened or smoothed with water and it hardens fully overnight. It can be sanded and cut with a knife once set, and unlike the others, it doesn't shrink when it dries. Some people also use plastic cement to make what's commonly called sprue goo by putting old and unused sprues into plastic cement, letting them melt and then using that resulting goo to fill gaps in the model. There is also a product very similar to sprue goo called Mr. Dissolved Putty, which I quite like using to fill gaps too. Either way, once gaps have been filled, they often need cleaned up or sanded to create a smooth surface before you can prime and paint them. This stuff all probably seems quite daunting. I promise you it's not. Once you've built a couple of miniatures, you'll be a natural. It will just be a normal part of your process, and you'll develop your own efficiencies along the way. Now that you've built your minis or sub-assemblies, it's time to pin them in preparation for priming and painting.